recording. So I need to tell you that you are being recorded. So be careful what you say. Allie, I'm just teasing Allie. I had to pick somebody. All right, so that's fine. Let me get rid of that message. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Everybody see the screen? We're on 1541. Where we left off last time was 1540. 1541. There was an issue with retirement codes. We've had back and forth issues. I still suspect we probably have more. We just don't know about them. Where the retirement code, what type of retirement earnings, if you will, is this? Normally will come from the employee's job. That's where it normally is derived from. But then if somebody during a time journal transaction overrides their earnings code, then typically in a lot of retirement systems that can or should be flagged as a different type of earnings. And so there was a problem with docking going on where the override wasn't occurring correctly. It was fixed. But I just want to kind of remind everybody that, in the place that I'm talking about on a payroll control, and I'm just going to go to earn doc in this example, earn do, earn doc, edit. There's a field down here called retirement category code, and that's what we're talking about. So the system is naturally derived so that if the employee's job has a retirement code, that's great. And if and only if the payroll control code, if you will, that's connected to earnings, has a value in this field, it will override the value that was on the employee's job. So if it's left blank, it'll be the employee job value. So it's just something to keep in mind. This work order we had a report that it was not working on a docking situation where you're in the leave portion of the time journal and you're putting in a docking, it sounds like. I don't know if this was something being reported out of Ohio or North Carolina. Doesn't tell me. But I do know that this was addressed. I don't know who addressed it, but I know it was addressed. I could figure it out, but I don't have that data in front of me. Maybe Muhammad did that. 1546, new additional AP vendor ACH export format. I think this was something that you did, Muhammad, right? I believe. And I believe this is all controlled on the bank card. Is that right, Muhammad?
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the bank card, and there's an option now, and I'm not sure where it is. Is it in the posting section?
No.
Transfer? How's that look? No?
Yeah, there it is.
Is that what you're talking about here?
Yep.
So Canadian is Canadian, but not, it's the Royal Bank or whatever. This Canadian TD Bank, and then US is PPD format as opposed to CTX. So CTX, I think, is the standard format, but some people's banks are still kind of using the older format, PPD, and so we now support that. So that we don't have to get the bank to change, we can change, which of course doesn't make any sense. These banks should be using the new format that's the standard in our country, but whatever. So that's kind of what that was all about. So there's some code that Mohammed made, and we're talking about AP ACH. We're not talking about payroll. So
Yes.
keep that in mind that you never would make this switched on the payroll bank account. And again, I'm not sure what would happen, Mohammed, if the client is using the same bank account for direct deposit of payroll and APACH. We haven't seen that. It's not traditional in our model with our customers, but you may see that. I just don't know if that has any effect on payroll at all, or is this field only used? It has AP next to it. I know it does AP right here, but doesn't have this. Now this create unbalanced ACH file, is this in the same work order, Mohammed, or is that a second work order?
That's a different work order. I think
Okay.
it is older one.
Oh, okay. I will not mention it then. Okay. So that is 1546. 1549, North Carolina URS workspace load and test. Ignore errors on certain GL accounts, funds, enhancement while loading the URS workspace, and also with your URS error check, ignore and don't count any error entry within accounts that are, I guess, in the balance sheet area, right? I mean, I think that's what we're really talking about. In this particular area. So that's a very particular North Carolina thing. I guess we were getting false errors that people had to see, and they were getting tired of those errors, and so we made them go away. So if anybody disagrees with that statement, I'll move on. 1555, payroll checks. Bug fix to use the effective date on state tax exemption fields. Add optional printing of installment amount reserve with definable caption enhancement. This is all payroll checks, is that right? So, do you remember Muhammad this one?
And now I'm trying to.
Muhammad does a lot of work, and he just says, I put it in my brain, then it goes into another brain. All right, this is not good. What am I looking here for? Hmm. What was it saying? Back payment time cannot be. Oh, okay. So we can't even press the button to do this. So let me just kind of just get rid of this real quick and do a quick calculate. So I want to be able to get to the option. Select pay cycles, load all, and hit OK. And Melissa's on there. She's always our guinea pig. Not sure why, Melissa, you've been the guinea pig for so long, but you are. All
Luck of
right.
the draw, maybe.
Luck of the draw. So what are we talking about here? This is the reprint or is this the check? Please use the effective date on state exemptions field. Okay, so that I know there's fields on the check format that say, oh, employee, you have X federal withholding exemptions and X state exemptions. And I think we were designed just to get the last value when in fact we want to get the value that was generally used for this check. Is that really basically one thing you were doing here, Mohammed?
Yeah, it was actually a bug that we fixed, and I think the state exemptions can be multiple based on effective date.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that issue when there are multiple exemptions, it was not pulling the last one or something like that. If you can see that
Gotcha.
in other authority info, I think.
Yes, but the other part of this, I don't see the options here. So is it on the bank card? Is what you're talking about for the this business of the installment amount reserve with definable caption?
That too was kind of caption issue when printing the checks. It's not anywhere on the setup card. It was
I
just
see.
the
So
layout.
in other words, it just happens, basically, is
Yeah,
what you're saying, because it knows there's an installment. Okay, and our installment system, as we all know, is the ability to reserve a portion of employees working over 10 months getting paid over 12. We're taking a portion and actually putting it into a reserve. And so when we pay it out in the summer, we're able to hit the GL accounts that were actually used to build it in the first place, as opposed to using the GL accounts that are set by the end of the year when you're paying them out in the summer. So it's a slight difference, but it's an important difference for people that need it to make sure it goes into a certain GL accounts and so forth. And so as we're paying out that installment, I guess we had a problem with the caption. I'm just not sure where you say with definable caption. I'm just not sure where you define that caption. I guess that's the only thing.
defining part is done on the bank account card check
Yes.
format tab.
Okay, let's just do that. And you already know that because you already looked at that while I'm doing this. Quickly figuring it out. And I will look myself, check format. So I think this is what you're talking, and so you can
Yep.
call it whatever you say. You can say, how about your squirrel fund? We would call it the squirrel fund. Is that what we call it? No, nobody thinks that's funny. All right, I'm moving on. Enable business objects enhancement. That was something I think that James, I don't know if James is on this call. No, I don't think he is, but I feel like he was asking for that or so. I can't remember. I don't know who was. Maybe Dan, you worked on
Roxanne.
it. Roxanne, but they wanted the ability to include other objects in advanced business rules. And I think you realized, Mohammed, that if you just turned them on, it would work, right?
Yeah.
And so you turned them on. Do you remember what they were, which ones it was? I just don't remember. Oh,
As user
user.
ID.
I see. So user ID, user group, user level probably is what it
Yeah.
was in advanced budget. So in other words, they just weren't checked, so people couldn't set them. But in reality, if you checked them and allowed the behind the scenes to be available to the user, they could actually set a rule based on users to do an advanced budget rule. So to say, oh, okay, if you're this person, you'll be in this rule, mainly kind of a way for people to kind of opt certain people out of being inside of a certain budget rule, because some of these budget rules just stop. They can't process it. Maybe certain people need to process stuff through and kind of be able to go beyond the budget. And so that's the reason why that was important. And that's what we have delivered in this release, or will deliver in this release, since it's not loaded anymore, loaded yet. in production. 1560 was an interesting one. This is coming from a little bit of work that we got from Ali, who wanted to see some performance metrics, if you will, on how long it was taking the main three areas to run. When I say the areas in payroll, the ones that take the most time in our system by far, and it only happened in payroll, really, in my opinion, is calculation of the payroll, generating distributions, and the posting. So what we decided to do was to build a new table and new page over in this area, IT administration. I think it was this general, and we have this section called tracing or audit performance, if you will. I think, and then processing performance log. And so these are, one's the setup, and the other one is actually the log itself. So first I'll go to the setup and explain what this is. And you have two checkboxes now. These are new as part of this release. Audit inserts. That is ability that's really not related specifically for performance. That's related to we're having a problem. If you ever in the support desk have a problem where you're getting an out of balance general ledger posting, it won't post. It'll tell you that it's out of balance. It would cause, the message is a big message and says you would cause an inconsistency in your general ledger if this posting went through. And often we want to diagnose, well, what does it think it's trying to post? And usually it's helpful because then it gives us insights of what might be the problem. So if you actually click on audit inserts, then when you then close the screen and try to post again, the system will pop up every debit and credit that's being hit, and you can write them down and kind of see, okay, it's trying to hit debit of this, credit that, debit of that, credit that, debit that, whatever, and you can kind of see where it's out of balance. I usually will even write them in Excel as I'm kind of doing it in two different screens, and that helps me to kind of see where and it's really kind of probably used more internally by people like Meta's support department or by our support departments to basically help diagnose a problem. Typically, you don't want clients turning this on. If they turn it on, I just want to give a fair warning to anybody on this call and anybody listens to this recording. Every user then is in that process will get those same messages, and it will slow down dramatically their ability to post anything. So be careful. Generally, do it and do it quickly, and then turn off that option. So anyway, just want you to know that's what that is. That's been available to us a long time. It's just been behind the scenes. So just in this area, we decided to make it available. Excuse me. Hold on a second. There we go. Much better. Processing performance alert is what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and click this on now, and I'm going to go ahead and do a payroll. And I'm going to do a very large payroll. I'm going to do a payroll with one person, and it's Melissa again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do
Yay.
it again. We're going to hit OK.
If you could just print me a real check like that, that would be fine.
I know. Huh?
Send it my way.
Exactly. The generate payroll distributions process took 0 hours, and then the generate payroll, I'm actually getting it multiple times. Why am I getting it multiple times? Uh-oh. Allie, that's not good. That's not good. That's a bug, Bill. We got to fix that before this gets released.
Gee, if only we knew a developer, huh?
Yeah. Well, can you send an email out, I guess, to me, right? So basically, it's the generate, but I want you to send it to me so I can reply back what objects were changed and so forth. I guess the question is, how do you want to do it, though? Do you want to do it in 15 in the test and in prod? I mean, I'm not sure just think about what you want to do. Because I think we want to do it. Yeah, I shouldn't give you all those messages. That was supposed to give you just message one time. I'm not sure why the distributions were being generated there, while we were just calculating. So I am going to go to another setting just to see if it's been changed. This is a play data system. And we have a feature called preview. It doesn't look like it's on. Yeah, so I'm not really sure why that message was even popping. So that'll be something we'll have to look. But anyway, so what it did is it gave me a message. As you saw the messages, obviously you're seeing too many messages, so that's beside the point. But then we go into IT administration, and we go back to general, and we go back to processing performance log. The system will have put a new entry in there. Unfortunately, these are all the other entries we just got, but this is the entry I want you to focus your eyes on. So you can see right here, this is the object. It was calculate payroll. This is the user, the start date, the start time, end date, and end time, and it took this amount of minutes, which of course is less than 1 minute. So unfortunately, it's a very bad data. We probably have somewhere maybe where we actually had some real data. Yeah, there you go, minute 42. This is in this is in true hours and minutes. So even though it's a 1.42, it'll never be more than 1.59 basically. So that is truly hours and minutes, and that's what that's going to tell you. So it's basically for calculated distributions, post. If I go and do it by object ID, there's the payroll posting. And again, there's generate distributions. We're doing very small tests, but I have done a few large tests on Rowan, and it does it fine. But I'm not sure why we're getting all those multiple messages, so that's what we need to fix, Bill. So please let me know.
Okay.
Oh, that's a bummer. That's 1560. 1563 employee FTE increased decimal places to at least 3, increased the FTE equivalent field on the employee card. So I remember, I think Mohammed did this, and he had to do some research to make sure he wasn't going to mess up anything else. And I believe we did quite a bit of research in that area. So, whoops, I don't have to do all that. Just go to jobs.
Yeah, there are a number of tables that were modified. I mean, the property was modified.
Right. Full-time equivalent. So I guess what we're talking about is, I just take anyone that's kind of active right now, busman, whatever. So the full-time equivalent field, which is where, I always forget where it is. Is it the first tab? Where am I missing it? Yeah, there it is. So now what you're saying is that you could do a point, I guess, let me just kind of point, I can't even think what I would do. 125, right? Let's just say I work a 125. It'll take that. If I do a 0.1256 or whatever, then it'll give you. Well, it does take that. Is that right, Mohammed?
Yeah, four digit, four
I
decimal
thought it
places.
said 3 though. Did it say 3?
No, I think we had to move it to 4.
Oh, really? Oh my God. So
I think
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
Maryland
so it
needed
stops.
that for rounding issues.
Okay, no, it's definitely now goes to 4. So okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So
It's 4 everywhere. By default, shows 2 zeros.
I understand it. So it's a 2-4 basically is what it is.
Yeah.
To show minimum of 2, maximum of 4, allowing 4. So that's what 1563 was. I'm not sure if in Ohio you're getting down to that level of detail, but if you are, you now can have your FTEs go out to 4 digits. Very exciting. 1569 was also a very important thing, and 1569 is actually the interaction of what we did in 1569 that's affecting 1560. So I think I'm positive that that's what's causing the issue. 1569 was designed to go ahead and let me just kind of go here. So one of the things that we were trying to do here when we generate distributions, let me see if we get these messages. Yeah. Well, that's nice. Yeah, that's new. So basically, let's just explain what's happening here is I'm going to turn off that log now because it's going to drive me crazy. So let me just quickly shut that guy down. The log is not meant to really be on all the time. It's really meant to be turned on when we're just thinking that the servers are not running as well, people are complaining. Okay, well, that's fine. Let's get the metrics and let's see what's going on. But you could run it all the time, but they're just going to get used to that message all the time. Anyway, so in the generate distributions, let me explain and kind of tee up what we were doing here. So we were getting complaints during the generate distributions that the AP department, people doing purchase invoices, purchase orders, general ledger, journal entries, etc., bank deposits, and so forth, were not able to process while this was going on. The reason is that this was generating records into a table called line distribution buffer, which is a real table with real data, and it is also the same table that journal entries had to update and so forth. So as you're entering a journal entry, it's creating records in the LDB record. Good example of why that's an important record is if you're doing a purchase invoice and you have one line that has an allocation on it, it's going to create maybe, let's say the allocation has 3 lines on it. It's actually going to create 3 lines just for that one line. So it's an ability for the system to sort or the user to kind of see, well, what is going to post to the general ledger in reality? Because it's not as simple as just the one line you're on. It might be needs to be exploded to 3 lines. So that's what the LDB does. It allows people to preview kind of what is going to really go to your general ledger if I really were to post this transaction. And that's really the same purpose over here as well, quite honestly. So when you're generating distributions, and they generally don't generate unless you tell it to generate, although that's why I don't know why I was getting that message really on the calculate. But either way, when you generate distributions, it was really locking up other people in the district. So what we decided to do was to just make this very special generate where it actually loads the data into a new table that we created. And so now the generate is generating it kind of in a temp way, which it doesn't really update a real table. And then when it sort of comes to the point where it would download it into the real table, we're downloading into our new table. Furthermore, we found some other things that were inefficient in it. One of the main inefficiencies was that if you just calced a single employee, it blew out the entire distributions, and you had to pretty much start over again. So we changed that as well. So when you calculate, let's say, the initial time, then if you go and fix 5 or 6 employees and calc single employee, it just will replace their data only and not upset the other data. So you have a complete set, but it's a very efficient process. So that's really a key thing that was also kind of fixed, if you will, because that was sort of really kind of a pain. If you do a full calculate, then it will go ahead and blow it out and redo the whole thing again, but that's a different issue. So when I do it now and I click that button, it does pop up this message. So this message is just kind of telling people, hey, it's going to take a little while. Are you sure you want to do this right now? That's something else that we added. One thing to note, though, is that our metrics have shown that by adding the new routine and creating it the way we did, we've dropped the time it takes to generate distributions by about, I think, maybe 2/3. I mean, I think it almost went, if it was taking an hour, it's taking like 20 minutes now. So that's something else to note. I don't know, Ali, I think you've tested this with large sets of data. You're on mute. Did you find that it's much faster than the older version?
I'll be honest, I have not tested this new version yet.
Okay.
That's on my list for today, is to
good.
make sure it doesn't trip over itself and to check its time. Because Rowan's still running the old.
Yep, yeah, well, let me know what you find out.
Okay.
Do it on a Rowan system. So I hit OK. It comes through. Now, also, when it finishes, the other thing that people had to do is then click preview. And that's the thing they always did. They always hit generate and they went preview. So why don't we just ask you a question right afterwards? Do you want to view the distributions? Hit Y and voila, they come up. This is the new table. So if we actually go behind the scenes and say, what is this table? This table is called PR line distribution buffer. Okay, so it's an actual different table. So anyway, so there's the table. It's got just the fields similar to what we had before. Nothing different really per se, but it basically is a new table. The failed validation still works. You still can highlight them. You can go see them and so forth. All that is pretty much the same kind of thing. I'm trying to think of anything else that's different here, but I don't think I can think of anything. So anyway, so that's pretty much what we were doing there. The distribution summary report was changed to read in the distributions. I believe that the K12E test report, because the K12E test report, Ali, also, I believe, can have those distributions kind of be included in the report, right?
Correct.
So can you make sure you test to make sure that mode is still working?
I will, because you've got the option of matching yes or no and just the regular earnings allocation. I sure will.
Right, because it says it right here. It's this option right here. So if you click this and say all or whatever, which either one, so if they don't show up, say hello to us. We need to
I will.
That. Maybe, again, we'll have to think about how we do that because I hate to send this stuff out in a flawed way. All right, generate payroll distributions, 1569. 1570, ERC vendor inquiry enhancements for limited users. And I got to find my right page here. Oh, I see what my problem is. All right. Oh, wow, all that. Yeah, okay. So this is, I thought this was already there in a previous release, but this release was so open so long, I kind of forget. Okay, so let's open up our web client now because it's a web client enhancement. And we'll take a look at it. You guys can read through there. Again, the background here is that, as typical, we're getting more and more requirements for people that are on the limited user side in the buildings having access to more information to help make better decisions. So we are understanding that request and are continuing to evolve the product to continue to give them more and more availability to data to help them make good decisions. So one of the things that they're asking for is, can you add capabilities to the vendor listing so that it has options to view more information? That was mainly the goal of this particular work order. And this thing is still loading. All right, So under the Finance tab, we have an option that's been there for, since a few releases now. This thing is slow. Called vendor listing. In the vendor listing, we can search for vendors in the typical ways that I think we've already demonstrated before. So here's the vendors. And I only have a certain number of vendors because I haven't marked only certain vendors. But in old Testy Smythe, whatever his name is, we've now added these 3 options basically. So, and all of them open up specialized pages that are just for the limited user because we don't want to put too many options out there. But they can hit ledger entries. Okay, and again, they can filter, they can see the GL distributions and so forth and so on. They have pretty much the same functionality, but they can't just go into other places. Like a good example is they don't have reverse document. We don't want them doing accounting here. We want them to just be looking at information. Okay, so they got that. Furthermore, they have check history. Again, they can reprint, okay, reprinted check, so forth. They see the financial void history and so forth. Okay, and outstanding purchases they see as well. And I believe these are purchase orders. And if they click on here, they'll show the document. This document is actually bringing up the standard purchase order. So if they don't have rights to see a purchase order, if they don't have that enabled, they'll get an error immediately that says they're not set up to actually see a purchase order, I believe. It may be that it brings it up and it's only read only. Just can't remember. So that's something else to maybe try. Is what happens if you don't have the ability to actually see POs on the system? What is the effect?
Hey, Andrew.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would we allow a limited user to reprint a check?
Well, it's not a live check. It's you know what I mean? It's a I'll show you what it looks like. It's not even close to a live check. So let's just take a look at that. And well, at least I hope it isn't. This will take a second probably because it's got to warm the PDF dude up. All right, I know you're going to pop up down here, so just pop up. Non-negotiable, right?
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
it's not filled out correctly, but it's non-negotiable. This is just the reprint. This is a standard reprint report that we use today, basically. I'm not sure, I guess, what the subtitle. So these are just, I guess, these are.
This is a test database, so I
Yeah.
think that's just for spacing purposes.
Okay, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, so we'll assume that that's not what everybody else is going to see.
Okay, thanks.
Anyway, yeah, so that it's not negotiable. It was the idea of just seeing what invoices it paid, right? That's maybe how some people think. They can get to the same data by looking at the vendor history, but sometimes they don't. Some people are very check oriented, so I think that's why we give that capability. I remember discussing that, but we felt like overall on balance it made sense to keep them from bugging counting, right? That's part of what this is all about. Quit bugging
All right.
me. Quit bugging me.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I just want to just mark that one as checked. And there's a little bit more documentation on 1570 on a separate document that Bill produced. All right, 1571 ERC check request enhancement on the ERC check request page. Add the ability to make the invoice number field required prior to submitting. And I think that was a great thing to do. The problem is that you do get the error when you try to post it. But really, why again does the back office need to be bothered with that? If you don't put a check request requires an invoice number really anyway, and you should have that information because you're the one saying I need a check, and you've got something in front of you that tells you that. So put that invoice number in, or put whatever the district says policy-wise needs to go in there, but you can't hit the submit button unless you've got that field filled in. And I don't believe there's a setup control that. That's just the way it now works. So Dan, I think you worked on that, and I believe that's the case. So, if I'm wrong, jump in. Employee vendor integration bug fix, correct the employee to vendor integration. I remember Melissa worked on this a little bit. Kind of, we discovered some issues where, and maybe it came from you guys. I can't remember, but
It did.
yeah.
It did.
So we were getting a report that they could change the employee's address or whatever on the employee ERC. It was getting approved, It was coming through updating the employee card with no problem. It then in turn was not properly updating the vendor record. And we discovered the problem. Melissa and I did. I remember the day we did it, and we finally got that put to bed. And I believe we've advanced that as well. So I believe that's probably not really new, because I think we put that out there pretty quickly when we realized, oh crap, and then we got it out there. So updated code in 1091 to correctly export to the Royal Bank. So Mohammed probably was fixing something there, I'm presuming. Maybe Dan did it. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to talk more about that unless you're interested in Royal Bank ACH capabilities. Check printing, add user-defined offset to control horizontal alignment of micro enhancement. So you've added, Mohammed, in, I think, the bank card, an offset. And that offset is indicated by like numbers. You would say like a 10 or an 8 or a 7. Is that what you would put
Yes.
in there?
Yes.
Okay. And what you're doing is you're basically adding spaces to the microdata. So the microdata is just whatever it is, and he's just front loading it with whatever spaces you specify. So if you say 10, it'll push more to the right. If you say 20, it'll push further to the right. So that's kind of cool. I still said, well, can you make it go up and down? And he's going, I don't think so, dude. So maybe someday Microsoft will give us that ability in a parameter way to control alignment up and down. I don't think there's a way otherwise. If anybody knows how to do that in Visual Studio, let me know. Because I think that would even be cooler, right? To be able to go up and down too through parameters. Hourly and daily rate calculation, new calculation type needed enhancement. C, the release. All right, so I'm kind of looking at this myself. No, that's 1099. Where's my other document? Does anybody have any more details about this? 1578. Sorry for my fumbling around here, but I want to make sure I see myself what we're talking about. 1578 hourly and rate. So we're talking about a payroll setup application rules. So let me switch over to the Windows client. We're on payroll. Anybody know much about this? Melissa, you know anything about this?
What was the description again?
It's daily rate. Oh, I know about this. I think I might have actually worked on this. So we're basically had an issue about how do we calculate contract days in terms of computing a daily rate. So on the employee job, off to the right in that panel, we always show the daily rate, right? So I think our standard way was to fall back to the days per year if the calendar wasn't at present. And I think we had situations where the customer really wanted the daily rate to always be using the days per year. Even though they're using calendars, they don't want that to be used for computation of the daily rate calculation. Sorry. So I think that's what the reason was. So our default posture, our zero option, was basically use the calendar and figure out the number of work days. And if you can't have a calendar code, go then get the days per year as the backup. That was our typical way that we were computing the daily rate. But we had some people that wanted to be absolutely just and I can't remember what state or what country that was. I don't even know where that was, but somebody was needing that. That might have been Canada, I suspect, but I'm not positive. Kind of think so, because the next one's Canada. Insurable rates calculation, bug fix, again, it's similar. I'm almost positive now that I see 1579. That's, again, a Canadian thing that we were fixing a bug fix there, so I'm not going to get into it much more detail than that. LBAS salary detail web services enhancement, add employee's default job to the LBAS salary detail web services. That's for North Carolina, and reporting data to the state, and we just added something there to help something, which I'm not going to go into beyond that. Change to purchase submit code unit. Make a change to the code unit purchase submit to make the code to modify the purchase line to the allocation code. This is one of the work orders that has been attempted to fix something that we've had reported that nobody on this call, I think, has 100% confidence is fixed. And in Ohio, if you guys have heard this, let me know right now. But basically what the symptom is that somebody on the web client goes in, they come to purchase receipts, they go ahead and update a purchase receipt, and they submit it. And then it submits it, it goes to basically a mode where people in the back office can come in, And let me just kind of go to that part now as well. To this thing called purchase receiving worksheet. And then it starts to show up as being submitted. It's a receipt that needs to be processed. When the person would get to this data, some of this data, well, actually, I'm not sure if this data was empty or not, but when they actually reviewed when they tried to post it, they got an error. When we actually got to the purchase order, the entire header had been blanked out except for the key fields, the order number, but all of it had been blanked out, and we have no idea what was causing that, so we've been doing many different things to try to fix it, none of which has been 100% successful. We've only had this reported in the cloud, not in the Ohio cloud, but in the more general cloud of this product. So we still think it might be related to something out there. But anybody in Ohio, that sounded all familiar to you? Hopefully you'll say no.
I believe so. I'm not positive, though.
Not positive what? Believe what? What do you believe?
That's what it's been happening. Angela's not here, and she would know more about that issue.
So you have actually seen that behavior.
I know that we've had something similar where someone has submitted a requisition and it's gone straight to approved.
Yeah, that's a separate. I don't. Yeah, that's completely separate. I mean, I understand why that could happen because your rules may not, for whatever reason, pick it up. Sometimes it's just the way we do our rules. This is a different issue. This is if you're using the receiving side. So what you want to ask her is, do you know any reports where somebody's doing a purchase receipt? They click on, they go in here and they go, okay, I'm going to receive. I'll just actually do one, and they're receiving that quantity. And they hit the submit button. And it says, yeah, you sure you want to do that? And you say, yeah. And it disappears from the list. And then if I come back here and hit F5, it'll show up here now. And when they get here, when they try to post this, they would get an error. See, this is posting successfully, I already can tell. But they would get an error. And they go, well, what the heck's going on? So then they go and open up the PO, and then they actually look at it, and it's completely empty. The header, the top part of it's 100% all blank. And that is such a freaky thing to happen that I think Angela would know that in 1 second. I mean, she would have been reported that. I think we would already know. My knowledge, Melissa, have we heard Ohio report this at all?
No. The only two are Fairview and Rowan.
Yeah, it's still those two. So
Yep.
Anyway, so we're kind of trying to figure it out. And Melissa and I have worked on it a ton, and other people have as well. So anyway, ongoing work order. We're doing some fixes for Canadian. They just don't like sometimes when we don't have our captions right, which I can't blame them. So we're trying to speak Canadian. Don't ask me what that even is, but
A?
Quebec. Anyway, so we're trying to be more conscious of the fact that we need to speak the proper version of English. In this case, it's probably just more of a mistake that we had something that just didn't look right at all. Calculate overtime rates, look back, record, hourly rate, bug fix, correct the payroll issue where the hourly rate is not always being calculated when the overtime records include entries due to the new look back feature. I'm not sure what the new look back feature even is. This is something I do think we need separate training on, and I'm not sure if we consider this to be ready to go in this 15th release or not. Melissa, what's your take on that?
I don't know, actually. Go ahead, Allie.
It's Christina.
Oh, Christina.
I think it's ready to go. It's our calculate overtime. It looks back at the payroll ledger entries to see if they had any hours reported during that week.
So because pay cycles might fall across a week, and yet the government says, Department of Labor says it has to be done on a weekly basis, and so that's why we're looking back into the ledger. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
They have some.
Okay.
Yeah, they have people in 2 different pay runs and pay at different times.
Oh, okay. All right.
Process the same weeks.
Yep. All right. That's good. That makes total sense.
Okay.
Leave liability report enhancement. Okay, what are we doing here? Make the following changes to the leave liability report. So which report are we talking about? First, I'll go to HR, and I'll go to leave administration, and I'll go to leave liability, which I'm assuming is what we're talking about. Pay control. Just kind of opening this report up. It's kind of gotten fancy, this report, over time. So I'm giving you all the options in front of you. You can see that. Added date filters, the leave liability report. So with a date filter showing there in the cause of absence, you can see at the bottom, the North Carolina districts are required to submit information about voluntary shared leave for a specific date range. Currently, the report would not allow you to filter on the ledger activity date range. So you can enter that activity, that filter range there, but normally you might not need to consider that. The job effective date is really more the cutoff to say, give me the balances at the job at the certain level, which would be typically the fiscal year end, quite honestly. So typically say, okay, 630 at the very top field, and that's how you normally would run this. But there's obviously something else going on specifically with using this report for a particular subgroup. You'd be able to include blocked employees. All right, employee section, block filter, not working. So that's over here, and we need to include blocked, and it's not working. The only thing that I would recommend is throwing blocked on there, but maybe I guess normally, and I guess I don't understand. So if you got a blocked employee that's kind of terminated, they left with a leave balance, is that really something you need to then accrue for? I'm just a little unclear about why you would do that. So I guess the change here is that you've added the ability to put blocked, but it's not on the list of fields natively.
No, we don't want to put it up on for the user to select blocked or unblocked. I changed the report to include blocked employees.
Right.
And
So
it is not easy to include blocked. I have to do, workaround to do that.
I understand. So, but the point is, if I do want it to be restricted to not blocked, can I add it and will it work? So if I
from here it won't work. I have to add a request page option for that because I have to add my logic.
So if I did that, would that be respected?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Before it didn't. It
won't be respected, I think.
I understand it. Excluded. You don't think it'll be respected?
I don't think so.
Well, you think it's going to include the blocked no matter what?
It is always including blocked.
Yeah, I just don't know if that's. I mean,
Why do we want that? Why do we want it to include blocked?
Yeah,
well,
I have to see.
The thing with what the North Carolina was trying to do is the shared leave, so they don't submit this report until the next year. So, well, they're submitting last year 7/1/14 to 6/30/15 information when they were running the report.
Right.
So they need.
Yeah, I can understand that because as of that time, Melissa, they weren't blocked, right? So
right.
I guess the question is, well, then how do you know that? So if you just eliminate blocked as being something that you can think of, then you could, I guess, get to it by maybe using the termination dates and other fields to try to construct a filter that includes the subset that you're interested in looking at. Because I guess, if your termination date is after 6:30, then you still want them, right? I mean, so I guess it's really kind of like who was active as of 6:30.
Yeah, they were looking for people that had the certain cause of absence code. So people that had the 50 or 51, 53, because we use that for donated leave.
Right.
Well, I still think you should still be able to filter on blocked or not. I mean,
true.
Yeah, I think for Mohammed's sake, it might be easier to not ignore it here.
It was there. I took it out.
No, I know, but add an option here that says, I don't know, whatever, include or exclude blocked employees or something, here, and then you manage it yourself.
Right.
Would that be feasible to sort of put it up here?
Yeah, that I can do.
Yeah, I think, Bill, we should do that.
I think we need to do that.
Because I think in some places that's not going to play well. Because again, I might have a blocked employee that's like a long time ago. You know what I mean? Because some of these people, I think, run this kind of procedurally like a week or two after closed, Christine.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not doing it later. So in that case, it's a struggle to pick up people that might be, because I might not want to take the time to clear out balances for a guy I blocked 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right, and this report's used for different purposes. So that's one purpose is to get that donated leave, but then they're also going to use it for a year end to get their accrued information.
Yeah, that was the main purpose. That was the primary reason it was developed. So we definitely don't want to lose the ability to do that, right?
Right.
And so, including blocked, and that means I procedurally have to get rid of their leave balances every single time if I want that to actually then work. If he's forcing then non-blocked to always be there, I have no ability to do that. I mean, I now have to take on a tremendous amount of new workflow that nobody intended people to have to do. So I think that's the reason why Melissa's sort of going, you really want to get that ability. So I guess, Mohammed, can you and Bill work on getting that taken care of?
Yep.
All right. All righty. So look, we're actually getting work done here. All right, so I'm on 1588. This is a limited user check request page. Add payment method code. The payment method code is generally used to sort of indicate that it's a credit card or whatever. The payment method code is an interesting field because you can actually close the payable out as soon as it posts. So it can actually get offset against a suspense account kind of interactively. So that is something that payment method codes can be used for. They do default in from the vendor cards, but they can be entered in by the user now by adding the payment method code to the general tab of the check request. So that's one thing about payment method code that's interesting is that you can set up, and let me just kind of just go to the setup real quick, just so people see this. Oops, I had to hit the right button. So in here, under admin, payment methods, so you can put an option and fill this information in here, this area here. And generally you wouldn't do a bank account. You would do a GL account and you could put it into some account. And then if you are actually going to go ahead and put an invoice in and you connected it to that payment method code, what the system's going to do is it's going to debit expense for whatever's been coded to the invoice. It's going to credit accounts payable, and it'll immediately debit accounts payable and credit to this account. And it's a way to sort of put dollars kind of, if you will, into sort of a suspense account that could be cleared out by when you process in the credit card bill from, let's say, Bank of America. You get a bill from Bank of America for $100,000, and you're putting these invoices in. You're kind of auto-closing them, if you will, because they don't really want them open. They're going to the real vendors, and they're going to a suspense account. And then all you'd have to do, that suspense account's going to be, of course, a credit. And then when you actually put in the debit for putting the invoice in for Bank of America, you would just hit that debit and be a wash. So it's kind of a cool way to sort of maybe another way to manage how you handle credit card disbursements in the system. So putting that on the actual check request just allows that to become part of that process. So it gives you kind of some nice capabilities there. And we can talk about that further later on if somebody wants to. 1589 purchase order page and purchase payable setup page. Add back setup fields needed for prepayment functionality enhancement. Who asked for that? Do we know anybody knows on this call why we had to do that? Was that coming from some district that we want to identify? I'm just trying to see where it is. Yeah, I don't know where the fields are. These are prepayment fields and purchase of payable setup?
Red Deer.
Purchase of payable setup page. I was trying to find out where those fields are.
I think it's under K12E, Andrew.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, allow prepaid. No.
No, that's a different. That's an old field.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I wonder where it went. Purchase order, no, it won't be there. No, definitely not there. Limited user access doesn't belong there at all. No. Is it right in front of me and I don't see it? Are we sure we did this?
Sure, it was there.
Where?
Oh.
You saw the number?
There was something under numbering, yeah. Prepayment invoice numbers, prepayment credit memo numbers.
Yeah, I added that, I think.
Where do you see that? Left or right? Why am I not?
Right.
Oh, I see. Yeah, here
second and third.
Okay. Yeah. And maybe that's all there is. Maybe that was anybody can look at the documentation trigger. I guess I can look at the documentation trigger. I just have it right here. Purchases and payables setup. That's me doing new stuff. Let me see. Yeah, I think this is it, Muhammad. I think that's all you did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it right there. 1589. Yeah, 1589. So again, prepayment functionality. Does anybody know how to explain that even? I think it's related to being able to, I understood it more on the sales side of the business, but in prepayment side, I'm prepaying something, right? And then I'm actually getting the invoice later on. I just don't know how you necessarily process all that. So again, my suggestion for anybody who's interested on this call is all you have to do is Google that and just say Microsoft Dynamics Nav You can say 2013 R2, doesn't matter, but just say accounts payable prepayment functionality. It'll come up. You'll get an MSDN article. You can read it, and it'll talk about how you use that functionality. I don't know myself. I haven't really gotten that much into it, so but it is something that you can see why maybe a client might be interested in that. We've added it back to our system. It was something that was always there. It had been removed. It's been added, and I guess, Mohammed, did you test it all the way through to see if it worked?
It doesn't work. Ceramic hasn't touched this area. So James was, he contacted Ceramic. I don't know what was the outcome, but we put it back. It's not functional.
Okay,
We
so
have to fix it.
very good. So this is, as Bill, this is a work order that, even though we put it out there, this is, Ceramic removed it for a certain reason, and my guess is for probably very good reasons, and probably relates to the fund and fund accounting. So
Yeah, right.
yeah.
It's not, fund hasn't been moved there. So
Right.
whenever you try to do anything, it says a fund must be there.
Right, exactly. That's what I kind of expected. 1590, the review document icon on the lookup approval page, add purchase order related functionality. Correct the problem where the review document icon on the web client approval page does not take the approver to the PO document if they click the icon. The screen flashes but does not take the user to the document. Update the field in the tables, allow the approval system to know what type of document it is. Name's consistent. Oh, okay, yeah. Fix the attachments. So I know we had a bunch of stuff going on there, and all of it related to the fact that the purchase orders functionality, we added purchase order functionality in the onto the limited user system at a certain point, but the review document on the approval page didn't understand it. And so when you had something that required approval and this person wanted to review it, it didn't bring up the right page. It tried to bring up the page, but the person didn't have the rights to bring up the page for the back office. So we changed all that, fixed all that, but then we further realized that if it was a flat-based PO, it needs to bring up a different page. So we had to fix two things simultaneously, and then we cleaned up some terminology there. But the primary thing is that we had added the PO, direct entry of POs onto the limited users functionality later on, and we hadn't gone back and fixed this, and that was our mistake. We've had several of these that just kind of has had to happen as we get word of them. So that's been corrected. 1591, overtime look-back calculations. Again, this is similar to what Christina was talking earlier. Looking back into the ledger as you're splitting weeks, add the leave base pay rate to the time journal and payroll journal. You add the leave base pay rate to the time journal. This needs to be populated in the time journal and carried through to be available, I guess, for the overtime comp time look-back calculations. So I guess leave-based pay rate relates to a comp time calculation, Christina, I'm assuming. All right, we did minor updates to the deposit test report, student number, series link, and student statement terms, text font. These were very minor changes. These were changes that were very minimal. Just expand this, make that font bigger, whatever. Again, student billing is something that we've added to the functionality, and I understand Red Deer is just beginning to really look at it at the high school level and are starting to get some feedback that it's going to require some changes. Have we seen any work orders, Bill, come through on that yet, or are you still kind of
No,
waiting on that?
we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, Jeremy gave me a heads up on that. So he says they're finally really looking at what we had built, which is not unusual. That sometimes it takes a while before people actually really get it going. Direct deposit advice enhancements, option to print company picture and bank account, masking feature. So the bank setup had the option to print the company picture on the remittance advice forms. So we didn't realize that we needed that, but people wanted the logo on there even for people to get direct deposit, which is fine. So we did that. And then I had an option to print the last 4 digits of the employee's bank account or none of the digits of the employee's bank account. One thing to note that people don't realize that I've kind of had to bring up several times is that the employee in the self-service, and I'm going to go to home real quick, when they bring up their direct deposit, they have the ability, and always have had the ability, this has not changed, this is something that's been there all along. So if I go to one of the ones that's on file, and if I don't like this, I can just change it to my checking and submit that. So, whoops, except not delete that. No, submit. So in that case, the request has been submitted by checking. Once it's approved, then that's what will appear on their pay stub from that point forward. So if people don't like the, checking asterisk, 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 last four digits of their number, which I can understand, then they can change that description themselves. And that's always been the case. So that's just something that I just think people realize that's a training issue. 1595. Payroll salary update budget. Correct the update budget tool posting when it's not including the new additional pay in the contract limit balance on the employee job card. Where it is not including it. Yes, I kind of remember that as well. We had a little bit of problem there where the new pay was not being included in the contract limit. That was an important thing. I think we advanced that one. I'm not sure. One thing, Bill, would be great to have is in all of these, if they were advanced, I guess it's kind of complicated because you can advance into one platform and not another. Is that kind of the
Correct.
reason? Right.
Yeah.
But it was advanced to somebody at least. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of useless information. ASOP import enhancement. Change the process to use work date to set effective date when it's blank. Set employee default job in the leave records. That's something that we must have missed but got fixed in this release for the ASOP people. 1597, create timesheets. Error when employee's default job is blocked. I think that was something that, this is a whole big bunch of verbiage on this one. Correct the following situation. When create timesheets is run, the create lines option set to create lines for each non-blocked hourly or per diem job, the hard error is received and no timesheets are generated. And so we saw this in the sense that these jobs are out there, they're blocked, but they're already been created. They're not active yet, but yet we want to put a timesheet out there so that when they do get activated, they're ready. And so we were having problems. They weren't allowing them to create that. So the field payroll job number of the table timesheet line contains a value that cannot be found. That's just the message it's giving. Source of the error is an employee whose default job is blocked. The error is not encountered when generating the same set of timesheets using the create lines option or to not create line options. Or create items for whatever. You can read that. Time entry header created in both cases. In other words, it created with no lines. There was no time entry line created. Anyway, bottom line, we modified the program so it does not attempt to validate the blocked employee jobs. It does not create lines for blocked employee jobs. So I guess we aren't creating. Is that right, Melissa? We're not creating lines for blocked employee jobs. We're just not getting an error any longer. Is that the concept?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so having the timesheet created for some people is okay. Okay. So it does need to be non-blocked, but that's not going to cause you that error that it was causing. It was causing it to stop. So that's basically what we were trying to fix, and we did. Update menu suite with intercompany menus. That's something that we're doing for Sweet Home, I guess. And that's Dan.
Breakthrough.
For Sweet Home. Who's Sweet Home? Is that the New York one?
That's New York, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm all mixed up. Breakthrough. So Breakthrough, they wanted the ability to do intercompany. Last time I talked to Dan Clower about this, they're backing off that. I think we'll do it all in one single company. So do we leave that out there or not? I don't know. But anyway, that's my latest update. That's what the client and Dan were kind of coming back to a single company solution, which I think is the way to go. Add employee job info to payroll check registers. Modify the payroll check register and payroll check register landscape reports to allow showing the employee default payroll job number at FTE from the default job. I didn't know anything about that. Maybe, Mohammed, that's something you did. I don't know anything about that report, but it seems like that was something that somebody wanted, so we did. ERC finance and purchasing query enhancement. Update finance system to allow limited users without permission to create requisitions to open the tab. Oh, yeah. All right, so that was something that was interesting. We finally solved all that. So in finance now, if we go back to the setup behind the scenes, and I'm actually at the right spot, I believe, for the limited user access. I'm going to turn off. Oh, no, it's user. Sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. Let me go back here. All right, I'll probably regret this someday because I'll get frustrated with this, but I'm going to go switch on myself. On my AVF login, and I'm going to take my additional setup fields and I'm going to go to allow requisitions and turn it off. Okie dokies. And I'll save that, and I'll come here, and I'll go home and off, and this won't take effect immediately, so we're going to have to just be patient a little bit, because what happens is there's just a sync issue between seeing data that we're doing on the way that we've set this up. So in a few seconds, what was happening once this data disappears. I want to show you what it looks like. So just give it a second. Anybody want to sing a song? No. Bill?
A?
A. So notice they're gone now. Okay, this is the example. So before, when we were on the Home tab and we would go finance, you would get a hard error and you would be stuck dead. And what was happening is that there was code on the on open of this page that was saying, do you have rights? And then if you didn't have rights, it was giving an error. So what we decided to do to make that so that doesn't happen, but yet still it can at least show up, but yet then is kind of like just empty, is that's kind of what we did. If you don't have rights, we create a filter for number equals the strangest number you've ever seen. And we don't allow you to break the filter. So basically we're giving you access to it with absolutely no data ever, because you're never going to get a requisition number with that strange number with upper and lower weird, well, it's not upper and lower cases, but it's just weird letters and numbers and odd types of ways. So there's no way anybody's going to mimic that. So anyway, that was a simple fix that solved the problem, so we don't get hard errors when people don't have requisitions. I have the ability to add attachments to deposits in the ERC. Okay, so we have the standard way that we do attachments now added to the ERC. So in the back office, we can see those attachments. Maybe that's a 10-key sheet, or I'm sure it'll be all kinds of things. Maybe in food service might be things they've attached. So that's a nice thing to have. State unique ID workspace for North Carolina problem with incorrect location be reported when computed allocation expiration date is prior to the date of last export. Who would have thought about something like that? But anyway, that was fixed. That's something particular to North Carolina. I don't know if that was a Rowan reported issue or what. Second thing next is another, we're getting to North Carolina as well. This is the retirement system orbit. When the SSN in the orbit file does not match the SSN on the employee card, import fails when the message SSN string exceeds 30 characters. But it's not giving any details. I'm not sure. Oh, this is an import file. What are we importing? What's an orbit import?
The orbit assigns a retirement ID, so those new employees coming in or whatever, they send a file and it matches up on the Social Security number and updates the retirement system member ID.
So the message they came with was incorrect and hard to understand, so they've improved the messagings.
Right.
And that's really a kind of an important thing. We find often that the messages are really not good enough, if you will, and that it really is kind of the work that we need to do. It's just simply expand the messaging, and the developers on this call, Dan and Mohammed, and myself, we always need to challenge ourselves when we're writing any kind of error, whatever, to really expand that message. And the designers on this call should thinking about what that message should look like and construct that. I did that with Chablis on some work he did, and we actually sat and I actually wrote the exact error messages in Notepad and sent it to him with all the % replacement variables. But I think it's important to really construct really meaningful messages. The more we do that, the better I think things go. So that's that. I won't speak any more about that. Multiple worksite report, preview, print, and save to PDU issue with totals. I don't know how are you able to get that to work?
What had happened here was the multi-worksite report when they were printing it out, they being Lawrence, our customer Lawrence, and it only happened when they print to PDF. They would have it where the totals on the bottom of the page would duplicate, and now that's no longer happening. Kevin
I'm just curious. Oh, I wish Kevin's not on here. Dang gummit. I was hoping to hear
sorry.
I was just I've never seen a difference where you print it's X and save to PDF your Y. And the multiple worksite report is where? Where do you get to that report? Is that a payroll report?
It is.
Yes.
It's not here. I think it's in the state reporting. It's right here, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So it is a report. I just don't know. Huh. I don't know much about it. So this is a generic unemployment report, basically, that's used across states?
Yes. I think it reports employees by building or something.
Yes, by location.
Yeah.
And by count. And, yep, there you go.
Yeah, see, that looks a little odd to me. See how that's cutting off?
Yeah, that's not good.
That's not good.
Send it back.
Send it back. Even if I do this, does it get better? No. Now let's see what it does in a preview window. I'm always interested to see if these reports act differently, in previews versus print to PDF. I just haven't seen many differences between the two. See, that does look right, you see?
Mm.
So now if I do the layout version of that, what does that look like? And let's go ahead.
That's looks bad.
Yeah, that's where it's bad. Yeah. Well, Bill, you see that, what we're showing you?
Yep.
Can you sort of, and typically the reason they're not seeing this in a normal way is because whatever they're testing with in the payroll location table, they're not filling in the full address. And so that's why probably in their testing they didn't see that. So maybe if they could just, Kevin or whoever did this, go and put a full address in and test again and get that tweaked, that would be helpful for us. That's 1610. I'll move on. 1611, time leave export. I'll get this off the screen, so it might be bothering certain people. Add the actual hours worked and estimated hours worked functions in the time leave export tool. Not sure exactly what we're talking about here. Anybody
Yes,
thought
we're
process?
using that time leave export tool to for some of the like ACA, hours worked.
Is that what it's
kind
called?
of
Is it
thing.
called time leave? So is this guy
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
I see. So in this guy here, we've added some
Yeah.
functions somewhere.
So there's calls to show actual hours worked. You have to hit new and then create a new export, and it's not a fast thing to do.
Right, we need a separate train on that probably as well, but
Yeah.
that's fine. I just want to know at least where it was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I kind of did this email remittance advices last time, so I've got it checked because we kind of were going through that functionality before, and so I just want to say that we're not going to talk about it again unless somebody wants to. All right. We're just doing a status check. We're about to 15 minutes left. And I'm just trying to see. We're cruising, but we still got a decent number going here. North Carolina Orbit workspace load needs to ignore check data on or after filing status date of ineligible status. Again, there's a slight tweak they're doing in the Orbit workspace. This Orbit thing sounds complicated to me, but they're continuing to do more and more in there. I'm not going to go ahead and get into that in too much detail, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over the next two. 1614, 1615. DPI load workspace divide by error. Again, I'm not going to talk about that. That's, again, a North Carolina thing, but, again, it looks like that's something that Allie needs to test. And 1620. Holy cow, this whole page. Dadgummit. All right. Next page. Another Orbit. We did a lot of Orbit, Bill. Okay.
Hey, Bill, talk to Allie about that.
What is Allie? God, that Allie. At least she's not on this call listening to this. That's good.
Yes, I am.
Oh, shoot.
I thought she was asleep or something.
I hear the love. No.
Look at it. We got Orbit, Orbit, Orbit. It's like we're pretty much.
Allie.
We are in. I think we're out of our orbit. Add ASN to deposit reports. I think that was done by Dan, I remember, and I think that's been tested. I'm not sure if it's been approved yet, but that's something that we were needing to get done. ASN is used in several of our districts more and more. In Ohio, I think a little bit, certainly in Worcester and Maryland, and O.J. Roberts in Pennsylvania. AP check reprint enhancement, fixed report AP check reprint so that the check prints in document number, order, or entry number, update the calling pages as needed. Yeah, that was something that was important. We were finding that people that were printing check reprints were printing them several at a time, and they really were not printing in the right order that made sense to them, and that's kind of an issue just in the way the system is organized. We kind of redid that so that it would be consistently in the right order. So the order, if you suggested in your setup to do it alphabetically by vendor name, whatever, then you kind of want them to still print in that order, which is really document order. We were printing like in vendor number order, kind of reshuffling them, and that's not what we want. We really want to be in document number order, which then is alphabetical or whatever it needed to be based on that purchase and payable setup that we all know and love. So that's kind of what was going on there. 1631, Orbit. I'm going to skip it, Allie. We're skipping Orbit.
Yeah.
Payroll void transmit direct deposit. Fix the issue where the user is unable to use the void transmit function in the payroll journal due to a previous change when we added new options to the export format field to the bank card. So this is probably something, Mohammed, that you had to fix that was unknown to you and that was reported, I'm assuming. But that's kind of what I'm assuming. It was related to you expanding the format to, I guess, having CCD and all those kinds of in that TD Bank. Orbit, payroll reclass errors on ICA lanes. We had a bug with the internal control number length, and so that was something that had to be fixed. I think it's 50 now. I think we kind of changed that to make sure that would work. So that was something that had to be done. Additional orbit errors, bug fix. Good God. A new report with update capability terminated users list enhancement. So I don't know about this myself. Who did this one? Anybody on the call did this one?
That's for Rowan. They have a zillion limited users, and so they want to be able to clean up the list after a person has been terminated for X amount of time.
So it's this report here, right?
Right. So it just gives them a list of everybody that has been terminated as of a back date, and then they can go in and actually delete those limited users to then free up some for their new employees.
So if I say 12/31/14 and I do it as a report, it would show all the people. James, why do we terminate James? Should we kill him out? So then if I run it again and I actually use the same value, now this date doesn't, it blanks out, but I guess that's okay. They just have to know what they put in. And then I would go ahead and click this button, which I will not click this button, but that's what we do.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Orbit, again, 1647. Well, this causes us to cruise pretty fast now at this pace. Jail register report, expand the document number field to at least 15 characters. The field can contain up to 20 characters if you choose, but the field in the report is cutting them off. So we had a little bit of a cutoff issue. That is often, we're seeing that more and more as people are using more and more of our characters. Often reports don't go really as wide as in theory that column can take. That's okay because we have a lot of columns to put on reports and paper is still limited. Anyway, so we are now, when we get those reports, we squeeze and take and rob from Peter, pay to Paul to kind of get it so it's mostly showing. So that was something that we did. We had to add another positive pay format for JP Morgan Chase. I'm not sure what client was asking for that, but we continue to add new positive pay exports all the time. I don't know when we're going to kind of just sort of punt that and just build it into a tool and just let it be more data driven. That's something that we probably do need to do down the line, Melissa. Suggest vendor payments 393. The include selections with the user ID field on the suggest vendor payment report does not validate against the user IDs. This allows users to type in a non-valid ID without realizing it can cause some confusion when nothing was pulling to the payment journal when the ID was. So is that just something that they just only can pick one value? Is that what that's not a filter? Is that how that works? I just don't know. I've never actually used that option. So we're talking, what are we talking about? Right here, right? So I guess if we typed in whatever, right. So we just made it so you can just pick. So I guess my point is I can't put a pipe in here either. So can I do that? That's just replacing it now. No. So it only allows then one value. Include selections with user ID. So what would we be using that, Melissa? Is that to say?
I don't remember why. I mean, I don't remember why.
Well, I think what we're saying is I want to suggest all the payables that was entered by Mary. So this is Mary's batch. So if I want to isolate a check run to be these are all the ones she put in, I want to go ahead and now suggest all the ones that she posted. That's what this would do. But I can't pick up Mary and Jane is my point at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay because I could just type in Mary and just run this again and run it for Jane.
Yeah, I don't remember if we discussed having more than one or the reason that we just limited it to one.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, because you can run it a second time, put another Jane in, and you're good to go. But it's just interesting. 1657, update table caption. The name of the object, I don't even know what that is, but they were having a problem with Jet reports. The cat table name, I think, had a weird character in there, and it was causing a problem with Jet. Jet was failing on it. Just don't say what the name of that table is. Electronic W-2 filing for Ohio. Here we go. Dun, da, da, da. Create two local W-2 formats for Ohio Regional Income Tax Agency, RETA EFW2, and I don't know what any of this is. Mohammed, is this something you worked on?
Yeah.
And guys, do you know on your end what it is in Ohio, or is that something that you're not even sure yourselves?
No, we do. Dan and Roxanne went over this with me. I don't know if Roxanne's on, if she wants to. I don't see that she's. Oh, yes, she is.
I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute. What this is for is so they can print out by their localities how they want to send them out, and they can print them out because some of them do hard copies and some of them don't.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember having some conversation on this as well. So in payroll and I guess documents, maybe you're in this W-2 right here, I guess, right? This folder sealer. Is it right here that I would do this?
Right there. Yes.
It is. I mean, we do have the capability to do that, but I think this work order, the 1658, is regarding the magnetic media file for RITA and CCA.
Right, I think you're right as well. I think you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
I think this is the mag media work that was in the code unit. I think we're going to get to what this is, which is a separate issue. But yeah, I think you're right.
Roxanne's right. We can go in here and print both from here.
Yep. Good. So again, so if you say that locality filter, then I think we already, by the way, I think we covered the other one earlier because I kind of remember this from last week. But yeah, so what I remember is that we were able to put it in and just say print for one at a time. And so even if the person had multiples, it's just going to print everybody that at least had some earnings and some withholding in that locality. Is what it's designed to do. Retro worksheet and hourly jobs. The retro worksheet is not working when hourly jobs are being pulled in. The worksheet is calculated on overtime records and errors out when hourly rate, where it states it cannot equal to 0. When we try to modify the entry number and add the hourly rate to overtime, system will allow it. All right. So I don't know. I don't know if I worked on. I mean, I kind of remember this a little bit, but it's kind of funny how I think Melissa, you and I worked on this together, and I don't know who was reporting it. Was it Christina reporting this? I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, I just looked at the work order, and it was from Roanne, and I think Roxanne.
Roxanne did.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember it. I'll be totally honest.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We're really helpful.
I started looking. I was like, did I talk about that? But yeah.
But Melissa fixed it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Melissa fixed it. So there we go.
Yeah, well, I think it was bringing in, it was going across ledger entries that were like these hourly pay rates of 0, because you know how we have these 0 pay rate entries, and it was like freaking out on the system.
Yes, right.
So we basically just told it to ignore it, and it was fine from that point on. Don't bother testing to make sure it's 0. Just ignore the ones that are 0, which creates some risk a little bit, but quite honestly, it's an extremely minimal risk. So I think it was fine. It's just the system was trying to figure out what has happened on the hourly. When determining retros, the big question is, well, what has happened to figure out what it should be, and what should then the retro amount be? And so how it's supposed to figure out what's happened, and then we had those entries there, which were just really just, I think, just salaried and people just recording time. They're putting pictures up on the wall in the office, banging. Payroll reclass problem with employees having multiple jobs and or multiple allocation lines, bug fix. By the way, is this, Mohammed, the one that Mark was even talking about yesterday?
Yes.
Okay. So is it resolvable in your mind? Are we good?
Yeah, we don't know. Ali has to test it.
All right,
so Ali
Ali.
has to generate data so Mark can test it.
Allie, you're getting behind.
It's back on me. I know.
So this is, but is this really though a BUD issue, or is this a generic base level reclass issue?
I think it's more of a it's a BUD reporting issue. The reclass actually hits the ledger and everything correctly.
All right, that's all I want to know. Because if that's the case, then we're moving on.
Move on. Get me out of this.
All right. Void transmit electronic payments, bug fix the problem with the user is unable to use the void function of the payroll journal due to a previous change where we added. This looks like a duplicate to me. I swear to God, I just read those exact words. Didn't I? Nobody remembers that? You guys aren't even listening, but I remember. I read those exact same words, Bill. Fix the issue, yeah. Notice 1632. This is 1661. Word for word, they're the exact same description. So either, I don't know what, how do you know? I can't even think of what I'm going to say with either. I think
Maybe I
1660.
picked up the description from the
Yes.
spreadsheet from the wrong place.
Well, no, they're two different report object IDs, though. That's the interesting part.
Oh, well, then they're two different problems.
Are they two different problems?
I'm not
one's
sure.
payroll and one's AP, I think. Yeah. Does that make sense to you, Mohammed? It may make sense. I mean, that just seems interesting to me. I just don't know. This one seems like it might be AP, but I don't know what export format field we're referring to because it doesn't say to the export format field. Well, I guess it does. That's the field name. So again, I'm a little confused by that. You may want to just work with Mohammed to make sure we got that noted properly. It just seems a little off. 1662, copy action for allocation header. This is actually an important one. Let's see this one in action. Let's go to payroll. Let's go to Melissa Clark. Who else are we going to go to but Melissa, our favorite guinea pig? All right. We're going to go to an allocation. I'm just going to go boom. And I'm going to go to show allocation. And so we now have a new button called copy. So let's just pretend that as of 12/1, we want her to have a slight change in her allocation. We can now click this button. Before we really didn't have this button. And we can say what date, and I'll say 12/01, and I'll hit OK. And it takes me into that. But if I were to look at the system, it actually, let me just kind of close it back.
It opens it into that allocation so you can then edit the lines easier.
Yeah, so I can go here instead of 106, it should be whatever. It should be 121, 131. And I'm done. Right. But I guess in terms of seeing the allocations, if I do the allocations list like that, then what I would see is that, because it's just so people realize that's the value, but which one depends on what posting date of the check is being processed. Anyway, so. Hey, April? It's right here. Oh, I don't know where that's going. I think it's going below me. Anyway, 1662, copy. All right, I'm looking ahead. What do you guys think? We just plow through these?
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
How many more?
Well, it's a page. It's 2 pages and a half.
How many are North Carolina that can be ruled out?
Well, unfortunately, I don't see too many. Let me see. Got to see some orbits here. Let's see if there's anything really good here. These all are pretty small. Yeah, I'm not seeing tremendous stuff here. All right, so let's kind of go through it real quick. Quarter recalculation enhancement. Quarter recalculation, provide an option on the quarterly recalc program to include blocked employees, yes or no. So that's the ability that we use. Where are we using quarter recalculation at this point? Because I don't trust it. Where do you guys use it?
The 941A. We had trouble with the first time Rowan ran it. We had to go back and back calc their previous 6 months worth of data so that the third quarter would be correct.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it ever included or excluded blocked employees. I think it would always include all employees. You know what I mean? I'm just surprised.
No, I know.
It was not including blocked, so I had to add an option to include blocks.
Yeah, because it posts entries and you can't post blocked. So.
Oh, so what happens? What happens when it hits a blocked employee then, Mohammed? Does it fail?
It fails. So what I'm doing, I'm temporarily unblocking the employee.
And then you're blocking it back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Previously, it was just ignoring them, so therefore the totals would still be off. So.
Gotcha.
Without him saving my sanity, I was looking at several pages of me blocking and unblocking.
I understand completely.
So.
Gotcha. That's good. Thank you, guys. 1664, address and cosmetic fix for the posted deposit donation and pre-post donation receipt. Correct address lines not printed on the posted deposit report and fix the horizontal lines. I think, Dan, you did that, I feel like, but that was a cosmetic changes that was needed. 1665, correct payroll check posting to update the document number in the check ledger. Correct payroll check posting. So correct the payroll check posting routine to update the payroll check ledger document number field from the PLE document number. Yes, no, I remember this one. I still think we might have still an issue in the payroll ledger. I did a manual check the other day, and the check number wasn't getting filled in on the PLE. But this is not what this is.
So no, payroll check ledger did not have document number in it. That's a new field, and this work order relates to updating that field upon posting.
Okay. Does it? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Because when you void a check, it just marks it as void, so you don't have to do anything else. That's fine. Change the LU purchase receipt list page to include a filter in the source table view where the PO quantity type equals quantity. Yeah, that was important, actually. Little nuance there. I do want to make a little point. I think I made it earlier. Is that when we're doing receipts? Well, I'm not going to bring it up just for time purposes. When you bring up receipts on the limited user, the only purchase orders you're seeing are purchase orders that are in fact quantity-based purchase orders. We do not allow you to receive on that platform a flat-based PO. Flat-based POs don't really get received. That's the whole point of them. They just get invoiced. That's the whole point. They're just basically encumbered dollars that are getting invoiced. And we've had conversations with Roanne about that, and I think we're getting there with them, but I'm not completely sure. I've given them multiple options. But anyway, so that was an important thing because I think we were confusing people and confusing people tremendously, allowing them to receive onto our flat-based PO. That was not something we wanted to ever happen, and we just didn't realize that. K12E map import bug fix when importing a file. You receive a generic message. This employee does not have a payroll job sub ready for use. Need to add the employee number to this message, otherwise you have not identified the problem. So I guess that was done. All right, so that's good. Another one, when the account string setup story override. Yeah, I don't know who's doing all this work. Is this all Kevin work, this K12E map tool? Do we know?
Yes, it is.
Okay. The person receiving worksheet needs to only show lines that are associated with purchase documents where the PO quantity is quantity, so kind of same thing. This is a different receiving worksheet. Normally it's not used, but it is still available. We do leave it out there, and it's not the main. It's not the one that's done from the limited user side. It's the one that would be useful possibly to be done. It's called, I think it's called receive purchases. Yeah, it's this guy right here. Let me just confirm the page. Is that page 1011? Yeah. So this is a different piece of functionality that allows people to process receiving, if you will, kind of across multiple POs simultaneously in the back office. It's not a front office limited user concept. Anyway, this was also including lines from flat-based POs, which are outside of what we allow. So anyway, that's something interesting. I don't think anybody's really using that, but we were having one client use that, and then that's when they discovered this issue. AP remittance report, correct the following issues. The ACH remittance report. The total is not print. The pages are incorrect. It's also not saving in the ACHEX folder. Anyway, I'm not sure what's going on there, but this is something that was fixed. This is something, Mohammed, I think you did, right?
I think that remittance report was just standard nav, so it just needed some help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, this is not the
it was based.
The remittance device is a Serenic report.
Oh, it is really?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Well, no, maybe not, because 10083.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Standard nav.
How do you print this thing though?
From the payment journal. You have to do export payments actually, and then it prints.
Oh, it's what prints when you do the export.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, fine. So that report was having some issues, and we solved them. Okay, that's good. Now I know. Leave liability report assumes the leave group code will be on a job with an allocation. In the case of Worcester, they're using leave job, which has no allocation. So we changed leave liability report so it uses, I guess, the new setup that we created, right? Well, I'm not really sure. It says change the leave liability report so that if the allocation number field is empty on the employee job, with the leave group code, it will use the allocation and daily rate values from the employee's default job. That's a little bit of a different thing than what I thought we were going to say.
That one is the issue of if you're not, if you want to use a job specifically for leave, We can't
I
assume
see.
that leave
Yeah,
group
I
is
see.
always going to be on the default
I see.
job.
So basically, if this job I finally get to has no allocation, then fall back to the default job portfolio.
Yeah, right.
That's what you're saying. That's how you solved it.
Yeah.
Typo in deposit message on the web client. A little typo there. We fixed that. When the user clicks on the deposit on the web client but not authorized, the display message has a typo. That drives Melissa crazy, so she asked that to be fixed. Deposit date. All lines of a deposit should post the same posting date. Yeah, I don't know if we found that. I mean, is it? I don't recall. I remember looking at that and not believing that could be done. So I don't remember if anything was actually done in 1679. I'm not sure how the. Yeah, I haven't been able to. I don't know if we ever did any work on that. So that's just something, Bill, you may want to look at. That may have been a work order we decided not to actually do anything on. So we might have closed it with no action. So I would take a look at 1679. 1682, check ledger, GL distribution reports. Change check ledger, GL distribution to disregard entries with transaction number equals 0. I know it was a Lawrence issue, I think. We don't know. I don't know if we all got to the bottom of what was causing that, but do we all feel good about that at this point, Mohammed and Roxanne? All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move on. General Journal export import Excel import problem with ASN versus speed key. Okay, so we had a little bit of issue there. And ASN is 20 characters, so we had to make sure we allowed 20 characters there to make sure that would work. Because we use the ASN, the speed key, that column is used intuitively to be first an ASN, then a speed key, I think, right? It's the same column. So that's what we were doing there. We had to make sure we allowed 20 characters. Correct the report where the name and address on the mailer portion of the first check stub is repeated. Yeah, that was definitely a problem on the new check that we created. We had a new eccentric report. It's a little bit different payroll check formats used by SEO Family Services, and that one was not repeating. It was repeating the wrong name and address, Mohammed, right, on subsequent checks. But that you didn't think that problem was on the other checks. It was just on the new one only.
It was on the new one only.
Okay, good. Field length error, GL account name, and approval processing line table. Again, I'm going to skip those kinds because we're just ready to move on. Correct typos, get rid of that one. Post to purchase invoice with multiple funds and or mixed sales use tax lines. You just get an error message trying to post an invoice that has multiple funds. I don't remember what I did. I think I worked on that one, Allie. I can't remember. Maybe James brought it to my attention. I think James did bring it to my attention. I know I kind of solved it. It was a weird problem. It was way in code unit 12, and I'm not sure if that's been proved, but I believe that's been solved. That was a weird bug. It was related to weird currency issues, actually, ultimately. DPI, I'm going to skip DPI. Newman Human Resources setup related logic to solve issues where leave group codes not on employee. This is, again, a Worcester issue, right?
Yes, right.
Okay, and so this is where the setup occurs. So this is actually an interesting little thing to show real quick. So in HR, Melissa has asked for and received a setup under the leave section called override payroll job leave. And if that's filled in, then the system is saying, I don't want to actually track at all. I don't even want the ability, if you will, to track leave differently on job A and job B for the same employee. So instead of kind of it being connected to the default job, if you will, which is kind of standard, the district might create a standard sort of leave job that doesn't ever get processed and put the leave group code there and just not have it connected to a real job. And so what is that job you're doing that with? And the system then begins to understand that by this setup. And so we found that Worcester just didn't want this functionality. So how do we kind of get rid of the functionality? This is kind of our backdoor way of not allowing, if you will, multiple leave accrual processes, if you will, for different jobs, which is I thought it was kind of interesting, but whatever. Bug fix on extra white space on 1099 miscellaneous. I'm not going to worry about that. Updating budget tool. I'm going to basically, well, let me just look at the other ones real quick. Delete check requests and warehouse receipt. Yeah. So these last two, we were basically put a little bit of code in there so that the system for a limited user wasn't putting noise and entries and deleting entries in the warehouse request table. It's actually not the right table, Bill. It's the warehouse request table. There is no such thing as warehouse receipt, but a warehouse request table. And so what we were doing here in both these work orders was basically getting the system not to have the limited user have the ability to, without them even realizing it, changing data in a table that would cause them to exceed the rule of three. They're only allowed to update certain tables, no more than 3 tables. So basically that was what they were doing. This hammering is driving me crazy. They're doing a sweep below us. Anyway, so that's all those were. Those were real important to be able to make sure that limited users aren't getting that message that says they've don't have the rights to do something. That's because they've exceeded the rule of 3. So we're trying to give it so that limited users don't get those messages, and that's what 17, 18, 18, and 19 were about. 17, 12, benefit plan elections, percentage split not precise enough. I'm not going to get into that. That's a real detailed thing in a benefit enrollment system that we still, I think, haven't fully finished in some ways, so I'm going to kind of skip that. So the last one I'm going to talk about before I let you guys go is we added a functionality over here in payroll in the salary update tool to create bonus pay, right? That's what we're talking about, yes. So this was done, I think, for Rowan, right? Allie? I can't remember.
Right. Yes. All of North Carolina, actually.
Yeah, all of North Carolina. So basically what we have now is the ability, a new functionality, to create jobs that are created just when we know that, hey, the district wants to pay a series of people, could be different criterias on that, a bonus, right? And so what you would do is you would first want to go to your payroll job and set up the bonus job, connect it to probably an earned bonus type of payroll control code, and set other settings correctly. You wouldn't do a calendar, you wouldn't do things like that. But typically, I think it would be set up as a salaried job, right? Right, guys? We want to set up as a salaried job. And then what you're doing here is you're saying, okay, start date, end date. I know I want to process this bonus maybe on 2 pay cycles or 1 pay cycle. So what is the start and end date? And it could be just so narrow, be basically just equal to the start and end of a particular pay date of a check run you're going to do. Or it could be a little more expanded, but generally speaking, you're trying to get it into one particular time, one particular pay cycle. So you set your start date. What is that payroll job number? What's the bonus calc method? Are you doing a flat amount or percent of annual earnings? What is that flat amount or percent? And the proration method, I think applies primarily, no, I think it applies to both methodologies, right? Yeah, I think it applies to both methodologies, whether you're flat amount or percent. Although I think generally speaking, you're going to see it mainly used on flat amount. Because basically we're saying, I'm going to give everybody a $500 bonus, but based on the hours per day, you only work 4 hours of the standard 8, you're only going to get $250, or based on FTE, or do not prorate. So the proration is really, I think, more on the flat amount. I'm not sure if it applies to percent, because the percent is already going to take in the fact that they're making less. So I think that kind of is sort of an automated way. You don't have to really worry about proration when you're doing percent. So that's what that for is. That's part. What is the standard hour? So if you are using the proration method for hours, what is the standard? And that became interesting because the system really doesn't know for this particular group. And so you do need to like separate maybe aides from the teachers or whatever, because maybe their par is 8 hours or 7.5 hours. Maybe they're not in the same bucket. So if you do have kind of a different set of kind of what a standard day looks like for a group of employees, you would filter this 2 different times. You'd run this 2 different times. Once for one set and one for another set. You have to have some field on the employee record that tells you that. So maybe you're going to use the statistics group code to help you with that, something of that nature. So once you run it, then the system will go ahead and do that. The next field, I have one more field, a couple more fields. Minimum hours per day to receive bonus. So here we're basically just saying, you know, we're going to go ahead and prorate based on hours per day. But if a guy works like 2 hours a day, they don't even qualify at all. So they're not going to get prorated amount. They're going to get nothing. So is there a minimum number of hours they need to work in a day to receive this bonus? And apply to default job only. So again, this can cross multiple jobs. The reason that it can cross multiple jobs is I may have a person who works in the cafeteria in the morning, and I have somebody in the afternoon that is driving a bus. In theory, both jobs are able to get the bonus. The problem is that they need to be both prorated, right? So if that's the case, you don't want to click this checkbox. If you do click this checkbox, then whichever one of those 2 jobs is the primary one, the system will only consider that job. So if you do have 2 jobs, they're both kind of half-time positions, and you don't click this checkbox, then the system will attribute $250 to 2 different jobs. I think it's just more in the way he calculates it. Ultimately, it's just calculating one bonus payroll job for that employee. That's what it's going to ultimately do. But it has to go after and look at two different jobs to figure out the proration and then add that, clump that finally to a final result and then create the record. Once the record's created, the data's right in front of you. It's in your workspace. You can analyze it, look at it, looks great, post it, and voila, you run your next run, it's included, boom, and then it of course sunsets because your end date is now passed and you're now in a cycle after that. So it's a real straightforward thing. I don't know, has it been tested, Allie, Roxanne, Christina? Have you guys tested this much at this point? I think we did advance this.
Well,
did we run
I think
this?
it's in use, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes, it is in use. Yeah.
Roanne actually used it. They still had to do a fair amount of tweaking from what Kim tells me, but I don't know the details on that. She had finished it when I had gotten that back down there.
Okay. Well, it's good to get that feedback because obviously we want to enhance it further so the next time she doesn't have to do as much work, right? So let's kind of figure out if we can. I mean, she may say, there's not much you can do. These are all special grandfathered weird situations that nobody can predict, so.
And North Carolina may change the rules substantially next go around.
Well, that's true too. So don't chase. You're chasing your own tail sometimes with that.